In the city of Lagos, where the sun beats down on the hot tar and the lagoon stretches out like a shiny mirror, there lived a man called Debo. Debo was a tailor, a maker of fine clothes for fine people. He had hands that knew every trick of the needle and eyes that could pick out patterns from miles away. His shop, tucked away on a side street, was a hub of activity, a place where men came not just to get their clothes fixed, but to share stories over cups of hot, sweet tea. The year before, during one of these storytelling sessions, Debo had heard about a new law that the white colonial masters had made. A law that said that if a black man had a disagreement with a white man, he couldn't go to the white man's court. He had to go to the native court, and guess who sat on that court? Tribal chiefs who were handpicked by the colonial masters, chiefs who didn't care about the truth, only about filling the pockets of the white colonial masters. This law made no sense to Debo. It was like saying, if your house is on fire, you can only call the white firefighters because your own local ones don't know how to use water. But everyone else seemed resigned to it. They said this was the way things were now. The white man's law is the white man's law. We can't change it. So why even try? But then something happened that made Debo see red. One of his best customers, a man called Bolaji, came into his shop one afternoon, his shoulders slumped, his eyes downcast. When Debo asked him what was wrong, Bolaj told him about how he'd been wrongly accused of stealing a white man's watch and dragged to the native court. He described how the chief had listened patiently to his pleas, then looked at him for a long time, a strange smile playing on his lips. And when the verdict came, it was a quick, "You are guilty." Bole had tried to explain that he didn't steal the watch, that he didn't even know how it looked like. But the chief cut him off, saying that since he, a black man, had brought shame on his head by accusing a white man, he must be punished. And so Bole was forced to pay a fine that almost emptied his pockets. When Debo heard this, he felt a hot anger rising inside him. How could they do this to Bole, a good man, an honest man? This was the last straw. Debo decided to take matters into his own hands. He would teach those tribal chiefs a lesson they would never forget. He went to the market that day and bought a big, juicy watermelon. Then he invited all the men from his street, all the men that he could call brothers, all the men that would stand up for justice, all the men that would stand up against oppression. As the men gathered in his little shop, sipping the sweet water from the melon and sharing jokes, Debo spoke. He spoke about how the law was wrong, how it made no sense. He spoke about Bolaji, about how he had been treated unfairly. And as he spoke, the men nodded their heads in agreement. Something had to be done. But what? One of the men, older than the rest, with eyes that crinkled at the corners from years of smiling, finally spoke up. His name was Aremu, and he had a voice that rumbled like distant thunder. "We need to go to the palace," he said, "to the palace of the Oba." The Oba was the king of their land, a man who held great power, a man who could make the white man tremble. If anyone could stop this law, it was the Oba. The men looked at each other, hope dawning on their faces. Yes, the Oda. The Oda could help them. And so they set off, all of them, led by Aremu, their voices rising in unison, chanting for justice, chanting for Bola, chanting for change. Their chant echoed through the streets of Lagos, bouncing off the walls of the colonial buildings, reaching the ears of the white man, making him uneasy. When they got to the palace, the Oda welcomed them in his court. He listened to their pleas, his face impassive, his eyes unreadable, and when they finished, he spoke. His voice was slow and deliberate, each word carrying the weight of ages. "I hear your complaints," he said, "and I know that you are right. This law is not fair. It does not bring honor to our land. But what do you want me to do? The white man's law is the white man's law. We cannot change it." As the men started talking amongst themselves, muttering amongst themselves, Aremu stood up. He faced the Oba, his eyes blazing with righteous anger. "We came here seeking justice, not empty words," he boomed. "If you will not help us, then we shall help ourselves. We shall go to the beach and build our own courts. We shall make our own laws and we shall live by them." The Oda's face hardened. He looked at Aremu for a long time. Then he spoke again. "You misunderstand my powers, old man. I am the king of this land, and my word is law, and my word is that you leave this kingdom and never return." Aremu was banished from the kingdom, but he didn't care. He knew that he was doing the right thing. And as he walked out of the palace, head held high, the other men following close behind him, he kept on chanting, kept on singing songs of protest, kept on calling for change. The Oda watched them go, his face troubled. He had seen the injustice of the law, but he also knew the power of the white man. To go against the white man was to invite trouble, and the Oda did not want trouble. Now, after Aremu's banishment, things became hard for the men. The Oda's guards would chase them away whenever they tried to enter the market. Many of them were beaten, some even thrown into prison. But still, they did not give up. Every day they gathered in secret, planning, strategizing. They knew that they needed help from someone who was not afraid of the Oda, help from someone who was not afraid of the white man. And who could that be? Well, you see, deep in the heart of the forest, far from the hustle and bustle of the city, lived a woman named Yemoja. Yemoja was a powerful water deity. She was the mother of all children born of the water, and she was known for her fierce independence and her unwavering determination. Whenever anyone was in trouble, they went to Yemoja. Whenever anyone needed help, they went to Yemoja. And now the men were desperate. They had nowhere else to turn to. They needed Yemoja's help. So they went into the forest, deep into the forest, where tall trees formed a canopy overhead, and strange birds sang eerie songs. The battle was not over, and Adana's eyes burned with a promise. This was only the beginning, to be continued.